again. As you've probably guessed from the thumbnail, I didn't really buy a bent lens, but I have bought one that I knew to be faulty, and it is the Sirius 28mm 2.8 in the Olympus OM mount for their film era of cameras, and here it is on the OM one now. I'm going to cut straight away, I think, to a short piece of video that I did, which will hopefully illustrate what the lens mount in particular offers in conjunction with this particular lens. So let's cut to my garden and we'll come back in a few minutes. Here we are with the 28mm Sirius lens mounted on the OM1.
Cannot be serious!
I'm hoping the video is going to be acceptable because I'm filming this on my mobile phone so that I can have two hands free to manipulate the lens. Everything in normal operation is exactly as you would expect. Your focusing ring, hopefully you can quite clearly see that the macro reading pops up at the top as you focus closer and closer, down to 0.2 of a meter, which I think would be around about 7 or 8 inches, something like that. Of course, all the way to infinity. Nice and smooth, absolutely nothing wrong with this aspect of the lens at all. The only thing that's technically wrong with it is the fact that the aperture is stuck wide open. Doesn't matter what aperture you set it to, it's wide open. With it being an Olympus OM fit, you have on the side here a stop down button which is doing nothing, obviously, but there we are. I knew that this was a faulty lens when I bought it, specifically for this purpose. I want to use it wide open all the time, in particular on this mount. Now, the mount itself, I've got some stills which, if all goes to plan, I will put in the video along with this footage. It has a rotating ring at the back which is marked off from number 1 to number 8. With it set as it is now, and I'm never sure whether it's on 1 or 8, but anyway, at one end of the scale it means that the lens is pointing straight and therefore operates as any other lens would do. Once you begin to rotate the collar, so let me swap hands here so I can get a grip on it, and it is still quite tight. There we go, I started it. As I begin to rotate it, hopefully you can see that the lens is tilting. Holding that as level as I can, and hopefully you can see that it is at an angle. Now, the other thing with this mount is that it is click stopped in 12 increments, which I think, if my math serves me right, is 30 degrees. So we can rotate the lens itself and the whole mount in 30-degree increments, so that we can angle the lens in different orientations. So at the moment it's pointing more or less upwards, and as I continue around you can now see that it's on a left-hand angle, even more so. And if I bring it through 6 of those increments, hopefully you can see that the lens is now angled downwards. So it gives us a variation, and depending on how we angle the lens, of course that's going to alter the plane of focus. So if we want to concentrate our viewers' attention on something that isn't either perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal, we can twist the lens mount around so that the plane of sharp focus is on a diagonal to match the subject. Hope that makes sense. Kind of does to me. We'll see what it looks like when we get back inside, and we'll talk a bit more about it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and basically the lens, if I just dismount it from the camera, and I'll also take it off the manual adapter. Just let's put the lens to one side. So the mount itself, I can't really do too much in the way of close-ups because of the fixed focus on the GoPro. But basically there's a cam on the side of the manual adapter, and depending on how you twist the ring, it will allow you to either have the lens perfectly perpendicular to the body, or you can angle it like so, and I hope some of the stills that I did will illustrate that in a little bit better way than I'm just trying to do here. It was great when I discovered that the whole thing rotates through 360 degrees with those 30-degree increments. I mean, you can rotate it into any position. It's just that the 30-degree positions are clicked, just like an aperture ring. It's a little bit stiff at the moment. It's getting looser every time I use it, but you know, probably better off to be rather too stiff than too slack. As the actress said to the bishop, am I allowed to say that on YouTube? The lens was described accurately. It cost me the princely sum of £10 including carriage. Can't complain at that. It's perfectly clear. There's no issues with it apart from the fact that the aperture ring is stuck on 2.8. Now for me that was ideal. That's the main reason well, apart from me being a cheapskate, that's the main reason why I bought this, because there's no point in me stopping the lens down when I'm trying to defocus various parts of the image. Simply by stopping the lens down, obviously I would be decreasing that effect, which is no good to anybody. So a lens stuck on 2.8 for me, absolutely fantastic. And it came with front and rear caps and a pouch and everything, so I mean, you just cannot complain, can you?
Cannot be serious!
Thank you, John. That's enough of that. We'll come back to you later. If you're interested, it takes 52mm filter. It's a 52mm filter thread, I was going to say, and this particular one is stamped as being made in Korea, which means that it was probably made by Samyang. I believe they switched production to factories out in Korea, and Samyang would probably have made this particular lens. Although it says, as with so many of these legacy lenses, that it's a macro, it does quarter life size, so not bad, and it's really quite useful. I can absolutely 100% guarantee and tell you that it is in no way a fast combination to use. See if I can get this thing back together without locking it in place. There we go. Straighten up the lens mount and put it back on the camera.
it's far from a street shooting people kind of combination. Well, if you're leaving the lens mount like it is now, so that the lens is perpendicular to the body, then obviously it works in just the same way as any other manual focus lens. But as soon as you start to want to defocus parts of the image, that's when you have to think about the angle of the mount, and also the amount of rotation that you're giving it, because you need to try and match the defocused aspects of the image to the subject. I hope you'll get what I mean with some of the images that I'm going to show you now. If we start off, and forgive me if you can hear my mouse clicks, but the first couple of images, just to illustrate what the lens and adapter can do. The first shot is of a railway station signpost with no defocusing applied, so the lens is perpendicular to the camera, acts just like any other lens, and of course on micro four thirds this is a 28mm wide angle, which means that it is acting like a 56mm, more or less a standard lens on a 35mm or full frame camera. So this first image just simply shows you what it will look like as a standard lens. Then in the next image, this one, you can see that I have defocused the image. Now what I like about this effect is that it kind of guides the viewer's attention to the part of the image that you're wanting them to see, and in this case it focuses, more puns, it focuses the viewer's attention on the actual sign rather than the buildings to either side of it. I mean, it's still a nothing photo, but it's just there to illustrate the effect. This next image is in a very narrow side street here in Liverpool, and it's of a odd telephone kiosk alongside this mural of a crown. Again, this first image is lens set to normal position, and then in the second image you can see that it's completely defocused the crown on the right hand side and a little bit of the kiosk on the left hand side. So again, it's quite a nice way to actually emphasize what you want the viewer to look at. In this next one, these first ones coincidentally have all been architectural shots, which I think is one aspect of this tilting manual adapter that I think it suits. This next one is of a church spire reflected in a modern office block, and because I have tilted the lens, it's defocused both sides of the image. Then in this next shot, which is a bit more off the cuff and it's a little bit more in my style, if you like, of some steps by St George's Hall here in Liverpool. Again, you can see that the defocused part is on an angle which kind of matches the angle of the handrail and the steps, and I've converted that one to black and white. Here again we have a local, very colourfully painted, well, it used to be a pub, I don't quite know what it is these days, it's called Kitty's Show Bar. Again, it just helps to, I guess, liven up an otherwise, let's be honest, pretty boring image. Then we have, in my opinion, a better architectural shot of the Baltic Hotel, again with both sides of the building defocused, so it draws your eye straight to the middle sharpest part with the title, the Baltic Hotel, in lights right slap bang in the middle. Quite like that one. Again, it's, you know, it's in there for illustration purposes only, as they say. Then we have a mural of the Beatles where I've angled the lens down, which has meant that the top and bottom of the frame are defocused. My intention was to draw your attention to the eyes of the four lads who changed the world. Isn't that what they say?
Cannot be
Yes,
serious.
okay, John, we heard you the first time. Thank you very much. Let's just turn it down now, please. Here we've got some umbrellas which are suspended from wires in one of the streets in Liverpool city centre. Again, top and bottom of the image are defocused. So those I hope will illustrate what I initially thought might be the best use for this kind of tilting adapter. My other use, which I'm going to investigate even more, is for macro photography, things like flowers and natural history subjects, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to getting out and about with it a little bit more. The remaining images that you will see, I think, are all along those lines, and it just illustrates the sort of effect that this will provide. So it's entertaining. Is it the kind of combination that I'm going to be shooting with every day of the week, or even every week of the month, or even every month of the year? The answer is no. The novelty may well soon wear off. But I think it's a case of going out and keeping your eyes open for a specific subject. And even if you've not got this lens and manual adapter combination in the camera bag, it's a case of, that'll make a good subject for this lens, and then I'll go back and give it a go. I think that's how it's going to work. So there we are, a very cheap and cheerful, that's my middle name really, combination. The manual adapter, should have said earlier on, the manual adapter cost me £26 including carriage, and the lens, as I say, was £10, so £36 to get some novel effects. No doubt you could play around with similar effects in post-production depending on what software you use, but I do like the lens. It's a little bit lacking in contrast straight out of camera. The other thing that I should have told everybody was, are these images straight out of camera? No, they're not. Some of them have just been cropped. All of them will have had a border put around them, but the majority of them will have had a slight boost in contrast and saturation, because a lot of these legacy lenses do seem to lack in both those criteria really. So they've all been boosted to a small extent, nothing fantastic. So there we are, my seriously cheap lens.
Be serious.
Yeah, John, that's the last. He's been a pain all day, this fella. I'm going to wind it up now before he has another go. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your kind comments. Enjoy your photography, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye for now.